Hello everyone. I thought while Vincent is taking his nap today, I would enjoy an iced chai with you guys and do a little video about the decks that I'm really connecting with this spring. This is like my all-time most highly requested video to make. I think if you are someone who is pagan in your spirituality, or even just someone who's very connected with the elements in your spirituality, but especially if you're a solitary witch like I am, there's something about the seasons and the wheel of the year and observing those phases by the decks that you end up working with and connecting with. And there's something very special about late springtime for me. Especially here in New England. It's been very weird weather this spring, so it feels like spring's just starting even though we're about a month into it. It's a special time for me. I'm a Taurus, so my birthday is coming up, and I think, you know, around that time, for all of us, when we get to that time of our birthday, we're kind of really like looking back over the last year, and looking back at years past, seeing where we've grown, you know, things that we want to keep bringing into our life. It's really the Seven of Pentacles card, you know. It's like, what do I want to keep growing? What do I want to let go of? And so there's something very special about springtime for me. It tends to be a time where I feel more alive, as far as like more, maybe more social, even like just wanting to be connected with others, coming out of winter where it's much more of an inward journey and really focusing on that. I don't tend to do a lot during the winter months. And so I find that with my decks, I'm working with decks that are maybe a little more conversational. And I typically work with certain decks. Oh, hold on guys, give me one sec. So I typically work with more watery decks in the spring, but I think many of you might be feeling the same way. I'm kind of having a very unique year, and you know, having interesting experiences and processing interesting things. So for me, there hasn't been as much of a watery feel as I would typically step into right now. And I've been feeling this call for kind of working with some decks that don't typically work with at the same time even, and yet they really kind of are all, I don't know, I guess working and communicating together in a really unique way for me this spring. So this is kind of a different list than I've done in the past, and you'll see that there aren't a lot of repeats from previous springs, because, you know, I do like to look back over the different springs that I've done this video series and see, you know, like, what was I working with that spring a few years ago. And there's decks on this list that you won't have seen on those lists. So I have meandered enough in my conversation. I've been working with, I'll just get right into it, the Mythic Oracle. And I cannot remember the artist's, well, the artist is Michelle Phelan, but the author's name for this deck, I believe it is published by Blue Angel, but this version is the American publishing house that did the original Gods and Titans and Goddesses and Sirens. The cardstock is terrible, but I love the images, and I don't typically connect with the Greek pantheon very deeply. And yet with this deck, I don't know, I feel a closeness, and again, can have a conversation with this deck very easily. So this is the Mythic Oracle, and this is one that I'm using this spring. You know, not on a daily basis, but one that I have been using quite a bit and feel connected to, and have on my main altar in my bedroom. There's a couple images that I really wanted to share with you guys from this one that I really, really love. Let's see. And also, interestingly enough, this is not my favorite deck of Michelle Phelan's as far as the illustrations go, and yet I do think that she got this Greek myth feel really well. I think she did a great job with it. It's not a deck that I typically connect with at a heart, like, it's not a deck like, say, Heart of Fairy for me. Oh, I love this card. Love, love, love that card. But it is one that when it shows up, we have some work to do, and so this one allows me to be willing and open to doing that work. So this is the Mythic Oracle. So the Duality deck was a gift from my best friend, and I've done a reveal of this. I'm going to do a review very soon, and I am overjoyed to connect with this deck and work with it this spring. Each of these girls is so unique and beautiful and intriguing. And special, and I love working with this deck, almost really on the whole just as like drawing a single card and really journaling with it and sitting with it and not needing to do like giant spreads or anything like that. Luca's being naughty today. Luca wants to go out inside and play because it's so beautiful out, so I'm gonna have to do that with him soon. But this is the Duality deck. It's a self-produced, self-created deck by the author, and has a beautiful guidebook as well. This is one of my favorite backings of all time, can I just say. I love this backing. This was a gift again, and one that I have so appreciated. Let's see, who do I want to show next? I'm going to wait to show this one. Yeah, let's do this. So another deck, which, you know, it's so funny, I was resistant to getting this deck because it's a Hay House deck, and you guys know that I'm not unbiased when it comes to the Hay House set of decks, their publishing company and their decks. I have great respect for Louise Hay. I don't, in general, really like their decks that much, besides Colette Baron Reeves, which I do enjoy working with. And Stephen Farmer has a few decks that I don't mind as well, but I really resisted getting the Native Spirit Oracle because it was a Hay House deck, and I really shouldn't have waited so long because it is something that really lines up very beautifully with my spirituality. And this is one that I like to use. It's interesting. I like to use it when I'm walking the wheel, or you know, I'll use it when I'm playing my piano, because she does sit on my piano, and at times like that, like almost really very ceremonial times, which makes a lot of sense. So this deck does tend to be one that I use really in a ceremonial way, before ritual as well. And it's funny because for the most part, in a lot of ways, I've really let go of using spreads. I don't really use spreads anymore. I draw very intuitively. That doesn't mean I only use single cards. It just means that I don't use, set spreads anymore. I read really intuitively. I love this image. And this deck is supportive of that, and so I don't need to, you know, set it up in that way. It can just be very supportive of my spiritual practice. So much more in that aspect than, say, a traditional divination deck. Another interesting thing is that the artwork in this deck is typically not something that I would necessarily be drawn to, and yet I do think that it serves the purpose with which it was made. I think they did a great job with this deck. So this is the Native Spirit deck, and this is one that I'm connecting with this spring. And again, just like the Mythic Oracle, not using it constantly, but in a very impactful way for me on my journey. What do I want to talk about next? Okay, let's do a tarot deck. So, hold on, I need a sip of chai. So, I love the Night Sun Tarot, guys. I just do, and I picked it up the other day when I was redoing my altar and put it at the base of the altar. And there's just something about this deck. Again, the artwork is not what typically pulls me in or speaks to me, and yet this deck has a very, very clear voice. And there's something about, again, like typically in the spring I connect with a very watery energy. Like I love Oracle of the Mermaids and that kind of like watery feel. Even this kind of Atlantis feel. Okay, trying this again. So this is the Night Sun Tarot. So typically in the spring, upside down. Again, I'll connect with these kind of really more watery, very flowy, very feminine, almost like softer decks. But this spring I've been finding almost more of an airy quality and an earthy quality in the decks as far as their means of communication with me. It's almost more of like a masculine voice, which has been really, really intriguing. And I think the Night Sun Tarot, sorry guys, really has that kind of a voice. It's very clear and very, really looking at the mental aspect of what is in shadow for you. So this is a deck that I'm really, really enjoying working with right now. And also just connecting with its energy, like even when I'm going about my day. This one has a very clear voice. A very clear voice, this one. Okay, one second. Okay, so the next deck, also Native American in its feel and its theme. This is the Spirit of the Wheel Medicine deck. You guys have heard me talk about it quite a bit. I love connecting with this deck, and this also sits on Alice My Piano, and it's just very, very, again, it has a very clear, strong voice, but it's also deeply rooted. So it's always calling me back to the ancestors and to my lineage and to feeling that aliveness that is within absolutely everything as well as within yourself. So really exploring that connectedness and the voice of soul and voice of spirit, and coming back to that, coming back to the grandmothers within. And are you hearing that voice? Are you honoring that voice? Are you trusting that voice? So this deck is one where the Little White Book is really, really good as far as it is important to read it and to get an understanding of the medicine wheel itself and the moons that we're talking about when we're connecting with this deck. And then also really being able to listen to that intuitive side as well is important, in my opinion, with this deck, because you have the structure that the guidebook is giving you and the advice that the guidebook is giving you. And then it's really about listening to the grandmothers within as far as connecting with the soul and the spirit and the energetic blueprint of each card in the deck. So this one's been a real joy to connect with really powerfully. This deck and another deck here on this list, it's so funny because I've had them for a while, and I definitely go through spurts with them where I'll work with them quite a bit, and then there'll be some time that passes where we don't necessarily connect. And so the feeling with the Spirit of the Wheel over the last few weeks for me has been that of a coming home, and a real sense of, oh, how could I have been away from you? This is such a beautiful connection. So I'm really, really enjoying exploring that. So, Okay, so let's talk about what's next. Okay. So, alright, so I think I'll do the Isis Oracle next. This is always on all my lists, and just like Tarot Vampires, this is my home deck. And so, part of me was not going to include it in this list, just like I've left Tarot Vampires off, because I always work with these two decks. There isn't a week that goes by that I haven't done some type of deep work with them. But again, this kind of very earth and air energy is, and fire held within this deck is very, very potent. And connecting with this deck from the standpoint of empowerment and awareness of the point of power and the importance of the creator role we have in our own life experience. This deck has been very, very important for me right now, and so I did put it on the list because I do feel like I'm connecting with it in a new way this spring. Really that voice for stepping into your power, honoring your power, and following your path without apology. And so it is an empowered aspect of Isis that I'm really, really very blessed to be connecting with. So this is the Isis Oracle by Alana Fairchild. Let's see. Okay, also by Alana Fairchild is the Sacred Rebels Oracle. I love this deck and kind of had taken a little bit of some space from it in the late winter. Was working with actually more water-themed decks. Sorry guys, Luca is just, he's 6 months old and he's at the whining, nibbling stage. So you can tell from my face and certain times in the video. So you're going to hear him whine a little bit. So I had taken some time away from this deck, but have really been stepping back into this connection with, again, that path of the Sacred Rebel, honoring the individual path, and not needing to apologize for it not looking the way that some people would like it to look like, but just being present with the beauty of my own path. And this deck is very, very supportive of that, really encouraging you to go there with it, to trust and to follow it. Yeah, so the Sacred Rebels has been one that's been a really just powerful joy to reconnect with. I've been really, really thankful for it this late spring. Okay, so let's see. Oh, all right, let's do this one, and then I'll kind of get into some newer decks and one old favorite that I've been working with. So the Heart of Fairy Oracle, one of my favorite fairy decks. Probably my second favorite, the Fairies Oracle being my first. I think it's the closest to for the way Fae energy feels for me, which is not very often sweet and cute and cuddly. It's much more two-faced, right? When we look at the She mythologically, historically, we're looking at a very intelligent race whose intentions are not always pure. So their energies, that connecting with them is a double-edged sword. So this deck is one that is very piercing, and I find her wisdom infinite and also piercing and unapologetically honest. So this is a really good one when you are doing shadow work, or you know that you're avoiding looking at something that it's really time for you to look at. Okay, so that's the Heart of Fairy Oracle, and I'm really loving working with that this spring. Okay, oh, I don't know, I'm so excited about these last few. All right, let me do this one next. So I saw a lot of people with the Love Your True Colors Oracle, and I was really, really intrigued in a way where I was like, am I gonna like this? Like, I want to get it, but you know, sometimes you are really drawn to a deck, and then you get it and it's just not quite. Look at how nice and big these cards are. I wish every deck had cards this big. So I ended up getting it recently. I purchased it last week actually, and I really wasn't sure, like, you know, when you're so excited and sometimes it just doesn't live up to that connection. You don't feel that connection, but I can feel it with this deck, and I am loving working with it. I've been working with it every day just for myself and really having beautiful, beautiful experiences with it. This is a, again, self-produced, self-published deck by the artist herself. This is the Love Your True Colors Oracle, and you can find it at Audi Art on Etsy or at her site, audiart.com. And it's a beautiful deck, and you can combine it with her new deck because they have the same backings, and so that is on my list. I am hoping a little fairy heard my wish list for my birthday, because I would love to add that to this one. But this is the Love Your True Colors Oracle. Really, really beautiful, very feminine, and yet deliciously vocal deck. So, and there's no guidebook. It's meant to be read intuitively, and I'm really enjoying that. The soul cards are not on my list this spring, even though I have been connecting with them in general. And I have to say, I'm really enjoying working with decks that don't have guidebooks, where it really is about using your intuition. And this is one of those decks that's been very enjoyable for me. Okay, so the Soul Trees Oracle has been a birthday gift from my best friend. And this is, again, another independently produced deck. And wow, guys, this deck is just... I've only had her for 2 days, and I can't even, like, I love this deck. This deck is just so special. So again, this is the Soul Trees Oracle. I will do a review very soon. I was too excited to do a reveal. I had to just open it right away, and I also really wanted to spend time alone with this deck. Because I connected with tree energy since I was very little, and I knew this deck had a very clear voice that I really wanted to spend a lot of time with. And this deck has not disappointed. It's a 74 card oracle deck, so there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of voices in this deck, and again, just like the Love Your True Colors cards, it's very vocal. It's a deck with a lot to say, and a deck that wants to make connections and has a very busy intention and purpose, I think. At least in working with me it does. And so it's meant to work with other people, and I'm excited about that. And I'm excited about getting to know this deck as well. So this deck does have a very small little white book with some prompts, but again, you are encouraged to use your intuition, and this is Soul Trees Oracle. I mean, I'm just blown away by the quality of the independently produced decks I've been working with lately. The vision, the love, the intention, the power in these decks. These decks were not produced as an afterthought. They're beautiful, beautiful decks. So before I get to my last deck, I'm going to work with the other tarot deck I have on my list this spring. Gosh, it's been a while that I've had the wooden tarot. And this one, just like the Spirit of the Wheel deck, I work with for some time, and then I'll spend some time away. And wow, this deck has just, I'm like, how could I spend time away from you? I'm so in love with this deck right now. We're having a very powerful love affair, and really having some necessary conversations. You can see the colors of a lot of these decks for me this spring. They're very yellow, earthy tones, wooden tones. It's a different space I'm in this spring than I typically am. But this is the wooden tarot, and it's this deck, again, independently produced, independently made. You can get it on Etsy. Just type in the wooden tarot, it'll pop right up. And I can't even, there are not even any words for how beautiful this deck is to me and how much I love this deck. and how over the years the connection with the deck has grown more powerful. And I think it's one of those decks like Spirit of the Wheel where when I take a little break from them and come back to them, we work together seasonally. We work together cyclically, like we work with the goddess. And we step back into times when we are lovers, times when we are friends, times when we are apart. And that's the beautiful thing about working with decks as the years go by. So next year, I gotta go get them. It's an absolutely beautiful deck. So the Wooden Tarot is one that I am really, really connected to this spring. Okay, so you can see it's been a few days since I started this video, but I'm finally getting some time to get to share with you all the last few decks that I'm really enjoying working with and connecting with for this spring 2016. Okay, so hold on one second, guys. Sorry, I just gotta find. There we go. Okay. There we are. So I only had one other deck, but I had to add two because I realized that these two decks I've actually been using quite a lot this spring, and also just really I'm feeling very connected to, and so to not have them on the list wouldn't really be right. It wouldn't be an authentic representation of my spring with working with my decks. So the next deck I'm going to show you is the Chrysalis Tarot. You guys know how much I love this deck and how intuitively it works with me and the really powerful messages that end up coming through. And I found that this deck has been really healing for me this spring. In fact, I have it on the altar right next to my bed. And while this deck does like to read with others in my work, I found that this spring she really hasn't been. She's been letting it just be about our relationship together. And she's not apologizing for that this is time that we need to have together. So I'm very, very thankful for our connection with each other. And I've also found, let me see if I can find it, here it is, that, because I just had her in my bag because I've been carrying her with me. This is Pink Manganese Calcite. Gosh, guys, I've been loving this stone this spring, and I'm actually looking for a bigger piece. I'll find it at some point, the right piece that's supposed to be with me. But that pink calcite has really loved working with this deck as well, along with my white howlite. So this is just a very, very special deck for me, and I use it year-round, but I'm especially using it this spring, so I wanted to make sure I included her in the list. This next deck does contain nudity. It's another independently produced deck that you can find on Etsy, so if you don't want to see nudity, then you might want to stop watching the video right now. This is the Le Tarot de Femme Erotic. Butchering that, I'm sure, guys, but this deck has been so healing for me in relation to the sacred feminine, and to, you know, I talk about how Tori Amos talks about marrying the two Marys, the sacred and the profane within ourselves as women, that it's an important part of our journey. And this deck has really encouraged me to step into a time and a space of connecting with sacred sensuality. And this is something that on my journey, it's a part of my journey. It's why I have this tattoo. It's a part of my lineage. And so connecting with it fully has been really important. And she also has had no apologies for the fact that it's a time for us to work together, and she's quite vocal with me because I do tend to let her slip when I get overwhelmed, and it's easier for me to step back into some unhealthy patterns for myself in relation to the sacred feminine and perceiving divinity within. So she's very, very unapologetically, you know, also spoken quite clearly to me, and I'll show you this. And yeah, I just love her, and she also is on the altar right next to my bed right now too. Just very, very powerful messages from her. And whether you are male or female, you know, in your physical form right now, she's a deck that you can connect with the sacred feminine with in a very powerful way. And you know, just because we're masculine in form, or we identify as masculine, physically, it does not mean that there isn't room for the sacred feminine within us. And as women as well, just because we are identifying as female in our body doesn't mean that there isn't a call for the sacred masculine as well. So that's a tarot deck that really does help to balance that. The messenger cards, as all of you know, I'm doing a workshop with this deck in late May. This incredible deck is one that I am deeply blessed and gifted. It's such a gift, I mean, to be able to work with this deck. And I use it with everything, and have just had such a powerful connection with her. So this deck is created by Sandra Kuntz, and it's an independently created, produced, everything deck, like most of the decks on this list. And so you can purchase this through her on her Etsy site or on her website. Etsy store, I mean. But this deck is just, it's a home deck. I don't know. I just love this deck. Even just thinking about this deck makes my heart smile. So I've had such a powerful connection with it, and this deck is living in my kitchen, on my kitchen altar, which is right here. You're actually sitting on it as you're watching this. And it's one that I find the whole family also is benefiting from. And so she is wanting to be in this space where she's right there with us. The messages can come through clearly for everybody. She's an inclusive deck. It's not just about me. It's also about the community, the family, the big picture with her. So a lot coming through. And Raven and Turkey, Vulture, Crow, Owl, these energies that always surround me but are especially potent right now are very much represented in this deck as well. So, and even though there isn't a physical depiction of Vulture in this deck, I do feel the energy of one of my main totems, Vulture, within this deck. So that is the messenger cards, and that's my number one deck for this spring that I've been connecting with at a deeper level, and that I'm just really blessed to be able to work with. So I've really, really been enjoying that. It was so warm yesterday here, and today it's like freezing cold. So I have like a shirt, a tank top, a t-shirt, a sweater, and a shawl today. Oh, spring in New England. So I want to thank you all for joining with me in this little chat about decks. It's like I said at the beginning of the video, a unique year on the path, and so I'm finding that decks that I don't typically work with in the spring as deeply have you know, risen up and demanded to be interacted with and come into deeper relationship with, and I'm profoundly grateful for that. So I hope you're all having a wonderful spring. Let me know what decks you guys are using, what you're feeling really connected to, what's kind of surprised you that it's shown up now, that maybe you work with typically at a different time of the year, and yet this year has said, I want to work with you right now. I would love to know that. And the workshop is still happening at the end of May. I'm going to give you guys exact dates after I finish the letting go of the past workshop, which is coming up this upcoming weekend. It's the 29th and 30th of April, and you know, it's just about my intention and my focus and my awareness is on holding the space that will be held in that workshop. And so after that, then I will open up to really stepping into the energy of the Oracle workshop. So I haven't forgotten about it. If you sent me an email, if you sent me a message, I'm setting up the Facebook page right now. It's a closed private group. If you haven't given me your email, you know, you can't see anything that's going to be shared there. It's meant to be a community for the purpose of the workshop, and for where we can share stories and ask questions and just spend time together in sacred space. So I'm very excited about that. If you haven't gotten an invitation from me for that page, do not worry. It is coming over the next few weeks. So I'm kind of working at things as I have time. And I thank you all for your patience, and we're all going to get there together. It's going to be a great experience. Let's see. What else did I want to share with you guys? Oh, I found this beautiful piece of rough quartz out in my yard the other day. Isn't that gorgeous? Look at that. just kind of sticking out of the ground just a little bit. He was just a little bit buried in the ground, kind of poking out, wanted me to look at him. And so I'm really, really excited that he's hanging out with us for this spring. Feeling really drawn to and connected with my stone friends as well. And you know, it's interesting. I always work with white sage and Palo Santo, but I'm also finding this spring that I'm working with Yerba Santa and smoky quartz in a really, really powerful way that is like is very new for me. So I don't know if any of you work with Yerba Santa for clearing and its protective purposes, but I've been enjoying it this spring. I found a new kind of layer of clearing happening with the Yerba Santa. So I'm definitely bringing the Yerba Santa for the workshop, and have been using it a lot in my home, and also after readings have found that the Yerba Santa is important and serving a very valuable purpose for its protective and clearing properties. There's a lot of energy right now, guys. There's a lot of energy happening within for us, energy shifts, but there's also a lot of energy also around us at this time as a planet, where we are evolutionarily on our path as a race of humans. You know, I think there's a lot of sitting with what the purpose of the incarnation into human form is doing for us as a soul energy. You know, is this still serving us to be incarnating as humans here on this planet? How are we going to play out the rest of this time here if we are choosing to incarnate in different ways next time around? And then, of course, when I say that, you know that there's no, you don't need to know, but you can look at it as no such thing as time and space. No past, no present, no future. Everything is a hologram, right? So it's all happening at once. So we can also look at the incarnations in human form, in whatever form, is all happening at once. And there's this beautiful kind of breath that's happening, an inhalation and exhalation, I would say, right now. And so the experience that you're having, if it's feeling magnified, if it's feeling intensified, if you're feeling, you know, a little afraid too, a little nervous about what's going on, it's because there is a shift happening, and your soul is asking you to wake up and to come back home to your intention and your purpose and where your point of power is. And so that can look different for each of us. We do not all have the same purpose. So we can be at ease with allowing ourselves to come home to ourselves and to remember our soul and our soul's purpose for incarnating in this experience. So not to go off on a total tangent, but I've been sitting with that a lot lately and just feeling the quickening of the pace energetically right now that's happening. Selenite is a good crystal stone to spend some time with too. And I'm really looking forward to having a little time this afternoon to clear with selenite as well, and just feel, you know, the chakras cleared and realigned with her beautiful energy. So I will stop rambling now. Thank you so much for joining me in this video. Let me know what decks you guys are using, you know, what you're finding is really assisting you to open up to your path right now. I'm sending you all much love, many blessings. See you in the next video, guys. Bye.